Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The View from Here, Behind Enemy Lines. We have the founder of Crowds on Demand, and so we don't fall behind. We have our own little crowd, so we're going to applaud Adam's appearance on our show.
Well, I appreciate that.
Mike hates this.
He's got this automatic clapping thing. First of all, Adam, I want to thank you for being here.
I can't even stop it now. Okay, here we go.
I consider the controversy around you to be intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how I pick at it, I keep coming up with arguments in your favor. So I'm really excited to talk to you about all that.
Well, thank you both, Roy and Mike, for having me on your program. And I love unpacking controversy. I think it's very interesting. So a little bit about me. So I'm the CEO of Crowds on Demand. Crowds on Demand, of course, the largest protest company in the country, perhaps the world. What we do is organize legal, peaceful protests involving passionate supporters of a cause, among other things. We also do marketing stunts, PR stunts, product launches, and other things to help get attention for people's causes, issues, and companies.
Right. I also noticed that you started off as creating this false event where you would make people look as though they were famous walking down the street. And I thought that was freaking brilliant. And I was so jealous that it wasn't.
You could use that.
Oh my God. It's a brilliant idea, you know? I got a big kick out of that. And I thought it was hysterical.
I have two questions, and then I'm going to let you run loose. One is, what made you realize there was a need for what you're doing? I mean, where did you get the idea?
Sure. So when I was a student at UCLA, I was a campaign organizer, mostly for folks on the Democratic side, including former Governor Jerry Brown. I organized all the college, kind of the youth in the Southern California region at the time. The people who ran the campaign at the time were these kind of ex-hippies out of the 60s, right? So these guys, they're like, Adam, we got to get 10,000 students out here. We got to get 5,000 students out there. And I was like, gentlemen, it doesn't really work like that anymore, right? Like they exist in an era where there was no competition for entertainment. So protest was sort of the main event at the time. So a protest rally, etc. So what we noticed was that though we rarely got that level of turnout, okay, if we incentivize people, okay, if we buy people pizza, we buy people food, we figure out other ways to make it worth their while to attend rallies and protests, people come, and those rallies and protests generate hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for the campaign, right? And what I found that doing that work was protests were even more effective than rallies, because let's just say the opposition candidate is having a rally with 1,000 people. We could put 10 to 20 people outside, and then the media covers it as here's the rally, here's the protest. So we actually get equal coverage with only a couple percent of the number of people. So there's really a value in that in like a major sense.
Like Democrats have done against the Trump campaign.
Sure. Well, I mean, look, I think that, again, my theory has always been that organization does not delegitimize the voices of those who are participating, right? I mean, every movement from the civil rights movement, gay rights, MAGA, Tea Party, there's a ton of money behind it, right? BLM, I mean, that's an extreme case. But there's a ton of money behind these movements. Doesn't mean that the people who are participating aren't sincere, but essentially you need money to get it in front of the people. There's so many amazing movements, and we get contacted by people who want our help with the movements. In some cases, they unfortunately can't afford our services, who actually have amazing causes, but they are unable to get attention, not because people wouldn't be interested in the cause, but because they don't have enough money behind them to get to the point where it gets attention. It's what I call like a catalyst effect.
Well, how different are the protests you fund, you organize, as opposed to the protests that we see going on now, which every time a certain time comes, all of a sudden they all disperse like the whistle blew in the Flintstones. Everybody's going, no, grab their lunchbox and go. also, when you ask them questions about what they are protesting or why they are protesting, they get to a point where they don't want to talk, and they'll la 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 la, or they'll. I've seen where they take out whistles, and everybody's got whistles all of a sudden, and they'll blow their whistles to drown out the questions. They avoid answering the questions. That's
really
my problem with those organized things. They seem to come in just for the money, and they don't even know what they're protesting.
Huh. The whistle one is funny. I'll admit, Roy, I actually haven't seen that one, but that's actually pretty clever. Whenever I ask them a question, you just whistle. That's
It's like a little referee whistle.
That's actually kind of brilliant. I have to say, I will admit I might actually take that one. But the I think the big difference though is one thing to be very clear, as I said at the start, the only kind of protest we do is legal protests. So that means no violence, no vandalism, no blocking off streets without a permit, etc. So we're a business, right? Even if I had no moral issues with any of those things, it wouldn't benefit me as a business person to break the law, right? So
Right.
so that's one thing. The other thing is we generally try to get people who are passionate about an issue. Now, we've been around for 13 years now. So when we started, we word staff a lot of our events with actors. But over time, I realized not only is that somewhat disingenuous, but it's also more effective to have people who are actually activists, right? So let's just say we were doing a pro law enforcement, anti defund the police rally. Well, I'd rather pay people who are already they're involved in their neighborhood watch, police unions, etc., to show up to this rally instead of having random people who might not know or care about the issue, right? Same with an environmentalist rally. Like, I might rather have people from the local environmentalist groups show up at those rallies, right? So what we do is we're kind of a conduit between people who might be funding an issue and people who and people who care about an issue, right? And we facilitate through that anonymous participation. So let's just say you're a wealthy person. Like, let me just give you a hypothetical example. You're a wealthy person, you have a giant mansion, $30 million mansion, and there's someone who's planning to build a very ugly building near your $30 million mansion. It's going to be an eyesore, but it's also going to cause environmental damage, right? Well, this rich person, it's not going to be very compelling if the rich person says, "Oh, I don't like this thing that's unsightly for me," right? Okay, no one cares, right? So,
Right.
but they're going to say, "Okay, well, Adam, you got to stop this." Well, I'll say, "Well, there's an environmental case to be made on this." So we'll contact environmental groups and say, "Hey, let's protest this on environmental grounds." So it kind of benefits the rich person because we block this building, but it also benefits this environmental group because they also are blocking something that they might want to block, but they would never go into coalition with the rich guy, but they actually have a common purpose in that instance, if you see what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, I've seen things like in one town where they said save such and such a farm. I forget what town it is. I've driven through it a few times over the past few months, and apparently they want to do something with the farm and destroy the farm and do some kind of development. I think low income housing or something. And the people are opposed to it, but it doesn't get a lot of press.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things this is more of a political point, but I'm not a big fan of forced housing zoning changes. Like what was being forced, affordable housing. I mean, unless Gavin Newsom and the left-wing politicians want to have affordable housing in their neighborhoods, then I'll believe them. Then I'll say, okay, let's have this discussion. But until you see affordable housing where the rich liberals live, like Bel Air and Atherton, California, and Upper East Side, and all those places, Bellevue, Seattle, right? Until then, it's going to seem like a pretty disingenuous point of view. I mean, that's
just like shipping the immigrants over to Martha's Vineyard. They didn't last 30 hours.
One thing though is that you are running a business.
Yes.
So bottom line is, I would presume, profit. So the thing is that there must be a number of elements that you've supported that you were kind of like, nah, I'm not a real big fan, but I'm going to do it because I can't pick and choose everything.
That's 100% right. Is that certainly there are causes that I love that we undertake, and there are causes that I'm like, you know what? I don't hate it, but I still believe they have a right to have their views known. Just by the way, as an attorney would be, right? If you're a conservative attorney, you might have a cause a conservative cause that you're really excited about, but you might also take on a cause that you don't love, but you say, hey, this is still something that deserves traction, right? So I won't take anything that I vociferously disagree with, right? And my line that I won't take is, number one, anything that is hateful, anything that's bullying somebody who is powerless, right? So certain things like I'll even give you an example, right? I don't love the sort of transgender agenda, right? I think it's gone too far. I don't like the idea of, oh, they're taking 10-year-olds and they're giving them hormone therapy that's going to be irreversible, right? But I am not going to organize an event to protest outside a drag show, because I feel like that's bullying people who I think are vulnerable, right? So even though I disagree with what they're trying to push on kids, I think that they are, I don't want to take on I want to take on the powerful. I don't want to take on the powerless.
You have to walk a much thinner line than I would on that subject, because of the fact that you're in a precarious situation. You're there to supply a service, but at the same time be somewhat objective about it.
Yeah.
So the thing is though, but the two things that led me to be in, and I hate to say this, in your camp, okay, is the first thing that justified your existence to me was professional mourners in India, where you could hire people to come in and basically wail. To me, I always thought that was disingenuous. But at the same time,
throughout Europe as well.
Yes, but the thing is that at the same time, it's accepted by those people. And although I wouldn't want it for me, I have no right to impose that on anybody else, simply because I don't particularly like that particular process. The other one, advocacy, which is, you mentioned about being a lawyer. That's how I ultimately see your position, as being an advocate to some degree, or at the very least, a neutral advocate, because not all lawyers agree with the clients that they hold, but they still have to represent them. So, although my initial inclination was to be in opposition to you, I cannot justify that position. So I will say that, first of all, I think you're extremely clever for inventing this organization, this business. I think it's ingenious, and hopefully that you continue to run it ethically.
Yes.
So I'm very, very pleased to talk to you about that.
Well, and over time, I've really been when you start a business, like any business, you're 100% focused on getting customers, right? And you'll take on basically anyone who's willing to pay you. I mean, any business is like that, whether it's a plumber, electrician, whatever. You're going to take on any business, even if they're tough clients, even if they're annoying clients, even if they're clients that don't pay their bills on time, whatever, right? As you get more mature and you have more options, you are in a position to you're more mature in assessing, hey, this works, this doesn't work. So yes, running it in ethically is really important to me right now, because I want to be on the right side of history. So I don't want to be known for packing arenas with people who don't care about an issue. I want to be known for organizing effective movements that what we do is a catalyst for a movement to grow far beyond us, right? So if we get an issue on the map, then people can take that and we can run with it further. And it's an effective form of advocacy. But I like your example of the mourners in India, because essentially I think the basis of that practice is that essentially to have a funeral that is sparsely attended is actually embarrassing for your family, right? That is, I believe that's the basis of that. So essentially hiring people to come basically to show, hey, this man was loved, this woman was loved in her life or his life. I think that
Mike's going to need that.
Pardon me?
Mike's going to need that.
Yeah. You guys seem like you've got great families, and that's awesome. But I think that it's important that's okay. But I will tell you a funny story that we have provided. I don't think we've ever done it for a funeral. I don't remember if we ever have. But for weddings we have, and I actually have a really funny story about this that you guys would like. So there was a very, very wealthy person from abroad. He was probably about my age, like early 30s, getting married to a woman from, I mean, I don't know. I best I could tell, she was probably a stripper. He probably met her at a strip club, right? And you know, I didn't ask questions, but not exactly the kind of gal that wealthy parents from abroad would be that excited about their firstborn son married, right? So they're having this wedding at a very, very expensive venue, and they say, hey, we need you to essentially provide the people who are her friends and family. So instead of being the people who you would think would surround a stripper, no, nothing against strippers, by the way, but
Right.
they wanted it to be young professionals, right? So we staffed it with a ton of young professionals, you know, to show she had a good background. And then though, so it gets better. So a week before the wedding, the wedding planner comes to us and says, okay, Adam, we actually need you to provide her family too.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm like, okay, so you just need an uncle? And I was like, okay, no, we need uncle and we also need the dad. So we need a guy who's like distinguished. I mean, actually, either of you guys would actually be perfect for the role. You know, kind of white guy, like around your guys' age. So
It's funny. Go ahead.
so we literally, I'm like literally trying not to laugh hysterically during this whole thing, because I don't go to all of our events, but I'm like, okay, I've got to go to this one. I've got to see how this one shakes out. So I go there and I tell the father of the bride, I'm like, it's your daughter's wedding, you gotta cry. You know what I mean? You've got to cry at this wedding. Yeah, so I got him ready to cry, and then I got the whole crowd of attendees. I said, you guys all have to have your stories straight, because the parents are going to want to meet their daughter-in-law's friends. So you guys all have to have a story of who you are and how you know the daughter-in-law. So funnily enough, the dad did the job perfectly. He cried. It was just, as he was walking the daughter down the aisle, I was like, this is just perfect. I did perfect. This is central casting. But so then we got ready. It was the sort of reception time, and I was like, none of these people spoke English. So we all the preparation I did, the rehearsals and everything to get these people's stories straight, was entirely unnecessary. None of them spoke English, so they all just hung out at like a couple tables in the corner.
You're talking about the groom's parents?
The groom's family, yeah.
They didn't speak English. Okay.
Correct. And as far as I know, they're still married and living a lavish life abroad somewhere. So, you know, sometimes it's about creating the right context for the family, you know.
So he didn't get disinherited or something.
No, I think that was the concern. I didn't think he wanted to be disinherited.
Right.
So it was money well spent with us for sure. So there's certainly there's sort of a fun component in what we do as well. That I like to sort of convey with these types of events.
As a father figure, I'd like to ask you a question. The people that you acquire for these events, okay, for your crowd, are these regulars, or do you have a list? Or in other words, how do you acquire these people? Do they stay with you? Are they seen as employees? Or you know, it's kind of curious as to, because this is not a traditional job. So I was just wondering, and of course, if you have different environments, you're going to need different people. So you need to have a big list. So
the answer is, number one, they can't be employees because they're free to accept or not accept work. Right. So essentially, an employee, if you're a plumber, it doesn't matter, you're going to a house with a Trump sign or a Harris sign on the house, right? Or a BLM sign, you're going to deal with the toilets no matter what, I would hope, right? When it comes to a protest, advocacy, that's not how it works, right? So you're free to accept or not accept the assignment. So as a result of that fact, they can't be employees. But we have people who go to regular events. I mean, it really depends. I mean, I have people who I know who are great at marketing events, but they don't want to do any politics, right? So we have a lot of regulars for marketing events, especially in cities where we do a lot of work, like San Francisco or New York or Miami or Los Angeles, right? They'll do a ton of marketing. And a lot of them say, hey, I don't want to do any political events, but I love marketing events where we get to wear a silly costume, that kind of thing, right? I have people who love to do conservative events. Love people who do environmentalist events, right? So you certainly have those people that are regulars at those events, but you're not going to see someone. I mean, in theory, you could be at an environmentalist rally and a Trump rally, right? I mean, those in theory aren't contradictory. But it's very unlikely you'd have someone who's at a BLM rally and a Trump rally, right? I mean, we don't really do work for we work on racial justice issues, but not BLM, because I think BLM is just so corrupt. I can't affiliate with themselves. I mean, the damage they've done to the Black community is almost unquantifiable in terms of destroying. Like they've been one of the most destructive forces on the Black community. Defund the police has made predominantly Black neighborhoods less safe. They've made schools more dangerous. They've allowed homeless encampments in Black communities, including with
they ran off businesses, so people with no cars who can't afford cars can't even shop locally.
Correct. I mean, it is BLM is one of the most destructive movements over
and it is Black Lives monetized.
Yes. Well, and guess speaking of who's backing it, Hollywood celebrities, left-wing billionaires, right? That's where the money is coming from. And by the way, it's a sort of, so do you guys know about the practice of Catholic indulgences back in like the 1500s? You would go and you would be a very sinful man, and you would go pay the church and say, well, don't worry about all the wives I'm having. Here's my money. Absolve me of my sins so I can still go to heaven. BLM, kind of like Al Sharpton, functioned in that way. It's sort of like, hey, I'm a company that is being racist against Black people. I am discriminating against Black people, right? I am not working with Black-owned businesses. And I know a lot of Black-owned businesses that I've worked with on campaigns that have complained to me. They say, oh, these companies, they fund BLM because to essentially hide the fact that they don't work with Black-owned businesses, right? So it's actually a way of hiding their racism, because they say, oh, well, we support BLM, so we can't be racist.
Yeah, BLM took a page from Jesse Jackson, and they'd go in and they'd blackmail people by saying whether or not they're racist or have racist policies. They were going to accuse them publicly of having those biases.
Correct. Just like Al Sharpton has done with increasing success. I mean, that's the brilliant business.
In jail. He should have been in jail 50 years ago when he tried to screw that prosecutor out in Long Island.
Well, and there was and of course he has the history of anti-Semitism. I mean, from back in the early 90s with the hoax of the Tawana Brawley attack.
That's the case I was talking about.
Right. Oh, right. Exactly. So, but he's institutionalized himself in the sense of, hey, he is the arbiter. So we're a company that is being racist. So in addition, so you're right. So, okay, a company that isn't being racist, he can kind of shake them down. But a company that is being racist can actually pay him money, and he will essentially shill for them. So he is shilled for payday loans, right? So these are companies that essentially target the Black community with loans with 600, 700% interest rates, right? But he is saying, oh, you trust me in my community. I'm telling you to do business with this shyster loan company, right? So he's actually screwing his own, I don't say his own people, but the people he claims to represent. Right, but most Black people, you talk to any Black person, they know he's a hoax. Al Sharpton's market is not Black people anymore; it's white liberals. You know what I mean? Black people know he's a hoax, but white liberals who watch MSNBC believe he reflects the Black community's view.
Well, we're going to have a wonderful guest tomorrow, Dr. Lieberman, and she is going to get into this kind of subject on a leftist, super leftist point of view.
Sure.
So the thing is that I consider the leftist group as being basically a herd mentality. I've even said that the difference between a leftist and a rightist is a leftist must have group support, and a person on the right will stand alone. And that's, to me, that's that. And I'm not talking about every single person on the right, but I'm just talking about what I consider a real view. So I tend to see the left as being very group oriented, and they're not allowed.
Communists.
They're not allowed to have opinions outside of the circle.
I think that's right. The only pushback that I will give you is I think that MAGA has really been trying to institute, and I really oppose it, purity tests in the Republican Party. If you're not fealty, like if you don't show enough fealty to Trump, we're going to primary you. Elon's going to back a primary challenge. Trump is going to campaign in your district. I mean, I don't love that from coming from the MAGA movement. Not I'm from the MAGA movement, but I don't like that because I think ordinary Republicans that I talk to, including MAGA people, are very open to different views. But I think the institutions like Trump is really trying to push out people who won't agree with his agenda. And I don't like that.
Well, I have an objection to that. I mean,
Yes.
I think that Trump is trying to push out the rhinos, or the Republicans in name only, who are basically Democrat lights, who've infiltrated the GOP and taken over the GOP, just as communists have taken over the Democrat Party.
I have a thing to add to that, and that is that when you have radical transition in any subject, okay, what happens is that you tend to have momentum going in a particular direction, and it takes a while to stabilize. So the thing is, right now, they're still in this. The MAGA is still in a state of shock. They've been going through a number of years where they feel has been downtrodden, and they're trying to secure their position, and they may be overextending that, but at the same time, I think that it's once we start feeling truly comfortable. I mean, I don't feel comfortable yet because the left is pushing so many judges in crazy areas. But until we feel comfortable as a people, we're going to be desperately trying to grab as much territory as possible.
I think that's right. I think that's right. Again, as someone who I believe in divided government at all times. I align myself with the Federalist Papers and the Founding Fathers. I don't want the government to be able to get anything done. I don't want Biden to be able to get anything done. I don't want Trump to be able to get anything done. I think America is great the way it is, and I think the government needs to get its grubby hands off of all of our business, and I don't want anyone's agenda to be able to be accomplished. I just want complete deadlock. Honestly, that's my opinion because I think that because deadlock allows the American people to go about their business without being hassled.
I think
for the most part,
I think you're right. In perfect world, I think you're right. But I think what's happened is that we have a lot of corruption. And to root it out, we have to go ahead and use whatever means that we have that's constitutional. And I don't think he's breaking the rules. But the thing is that I agree with you. Constitutionally, the Constitution is awesome. I think it should be followed, et cetera, et cetera. But because of the fact that many of our institutions have been used as a weapon, we have to confront those institutions, those entrenched people, and we have to, at the very least, expose them and make them constitutionally responsible.
I think that's right. I don't inherently disagree with that. I think one area of agreement I'm sure we both have, as someone who's definitely an independent moderate, and you guys being more on the MAGA side, I think Lindsey Graham is a worm. You know what I mean? Oh. And it really just annoys me. I don't understand. For any of your viewers in South Carolina,
I have to interject. There's no reason to insult worms that way.
He's just upset that he wasn't able to be the first female president. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, his whole. I don't understand. Maybe people in South Carolina, please enlighten me, your viewers there, how this guy sticks around. Because as far as I understand it, moderates, independents like me, who are big lovers of John McCain, we don't respect him because he's gone back on all that, right? MAGA hates him because they know he's not real MAGA, right? Liberals don't like him because he's a Republican. So it feels like the three groups in American politics hate him. How does this man, if you want to call him that, remain?
I think it's because he's spread out the money he's collected through his corruption to people who will support him and get votes for him.
The other thing is that we see mostly facade, and the underlying energies and mechanisms that run the political machine, he seems to know how to manage. It's like Kamala Harris was absolutely vacuous as far as I was concerned, but she knew how to get where she wanted to go. So
that's a good comparison, actually. I mean, I think Lindsey is probably smarter than Kamala, to tell you the truth. I mean, Lindsey Graham is kind of funny. He reminds me of the eunuch from Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? He just kind of sticks around like he's always there. Varys is his name from Game of Thrones. Like he just kind of. Pardon me?
Like shift.
Yeah. Well, so Kamala is interesting. I mean, Kamala, of course, her route to power was she slept with Willie Brown, the former mayor and power broker. But Kamala's not stupid. Don't get me wrong. She knew how to say the right thing to the right. I mean, the one thing that Kamala and Graham have in common is they know how to say the right thing to the right person at the right time, and they really don't care about ideology. They're just
I don't think she has an original thought.
Based upon the allies that she's had in the past, it's no doubt that she is an outstanding orator.
Oh my God. Okay, I get that now. Yeah.
There's a reason they used to refer to her as knee pad.
But hey, stop talking about black people. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
She's not black.
Not black.
In fact, her grandfather loved blacks so much that he enslaved some of them.
I'm half Sicilian. I'm probably more black than she is.
She just says whatever she thinks is going to resonate, and you know I mean it's just crazy. I mean, she called Joe Biden a racist, right, on national TV at that debate, right? You know, Jill Biden never wanted to have her on the ticket because she was so offended that Kamala would call Joe Biden a racist for
the one true thing she ever said.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it depends. I think people use the term racism too loosely. Like, to me, a racist is someone who has true animus, hatred for another group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I tell my grandchildren. If I tell a joke that has some ethnic character in it, oh, come on, that's racist, Grandpa. I said, no, it's not. I don't hate these people. You know, it's like if I tell a gay joke or something, I have gay relatives. I have gay friends. I'll tell a gay joke because it's funny. I don't do it, in a mean way.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're willing to take a joke directed toward your side, then you can give it. As long as you can take as well as you give, I think you can make fun of whoever you want. I think I
can make fun of myself better than anybody else.
Left telling them jokes is no laughing matter.
I mean, that is the one challenge as the left is. I mean, Bill Maher I think nailed it very well, as saying the left has kind of lost its, like, the left is no longer the fun party. I mean, if I had to take a tequila shot with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Marjorie Taylor Greene, I would take it with Marjorie Taylor Greene any day.
Oh, anytime.
I mean, I think the Republicans have for so long been stigmatized correctly as this sort of non-fun party, right? I mean, this is the party of Mike Pence, I'm at home every day at 5 o'clock. I'd never be seen with a woman who's not my wife at any time, like this sort of ultra puritanical thing. I mean, but I think now we're the party of Trump and Pete Hegseth and Elon Musk, right? I mean, these are people who aren't really social conservatives, who are people who don't lecture people on social values because they don't live a pure life and they don't want to impose that purity on others. And I think that resonates with America 2025 better than this old, let's pretend we're in Leave It to Beaver land,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is that my view on ethics is it's rather it's a subjectivity inspired by objectivity. So the thing is that you try to be as objective and fair as possible, but ultimately it's a personal choice. And I've had arguments with Roy about ethics all the time. He hates my definitions, but and you're free to disagree as well. But the thing is that comes back to you again. Initially, my initial reaction to this whole idea of creating this facade of support bothered me, and then I started thinking about it, and I started thinking how often we use advertising and advocacy, et cetera, and even we ourselves are inherently showmen. Oftentimes, we're not always we're not always honest in our present position, just to go ahead and get the job done. So I'm thinking, ultimately, this is a creative movement. I kind of like it in the sense that I expect a free entourage at some point in my life, though. Okay. So anyway, it's got to be more than 3 people, though. No, but that made me. I just couldn't stop laughing because I thought it was the most entertaining thing. I mean, as it would make a great vacation thing to go ahead and go someplace with, let's say, a newlywed, and then hire these people to go ahead and make it appear as though you're in some sort of social eye. I think it's really
that was ingenious, actually.
That is ingenious.
Well, I think it really goes to show context is everything, right? I mean, imagine if Martin Luther King delivered "I Have a Dream" in front of 10 people, right? Wouldn't have had the same effect. A beautiful, beautiful speech, but it wouldn't have had the same effect, right? So it's kind of the concept, right? What makes a celebrity? It's the people who say they're a celebrity. What makes a movement? It's the people who support the movement, right? So we at Crowds on Demand want to create that context. That's what we do. But what we really are is the catalyst, because ultimately the fun part, like you said about doing it on vacation, it's fun, but ultimately you won't become a celebrity overnight from having an entourage. You'll have fun, right? But ultimately, if you're someone who's already kind of famous and now you're surrounded by an entourage, people might start to think of you in a different way of like, dude, he's a big deal, right? So it's all about creating the context, and that's what we do, and I love doing it. And I love the opportunity to kind of go on platforms like yours to really explain and expound on what we do, because there, as you said, Mike, there's a lot of misinterpretation. I think people's initial reaction is like, there's something wrong with this. And even if they can't put their hand on it, they're kind of like, there's something wrong with it. And they don't like it. But when in reality, when they really unpack what we do, they like it more, that's why I try to go on these kind of on shows like yours to kind of talk about it and have people at least understand it. Even if people leave us say, I don't love it, they at least kind of understand the logic and at least can contextualize it.
What I'm glad about the fact that you're on this particular show, besides the fact that I think that it's nice to have controversial people on our show, what I like is the fact that you're very open about what's happening, okay? Which means that you're emoting it to the general public. And that to me is a very honest approach, which I need to see in other words, when I go see a movie, I know that it's make-believe. And the fact that you're doing this, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to change the subject. I wouldn't be surprised if when you send out a group for a protest, that passersby join in.
It happens. It's a catalyst. Like I've said, it's a catalyst for other people to join in the movement. But if there's 2 people, if there's one guy standing on a street corner, no one's going to join in. If there's 100 people, there's a certain threshold at which point it becomes comfortable to join in a protest. And the same thing can be applied to a movement, right? Like there was a turning point, even like, here's a good example. In the MAGA movement, there was a turning point just in this past election cycle and I think it actually is when the hedge fund manager, Bill Ackman, joined the Trump campaign or affiliated himself with Trump and endorsed Trump, which sort of gave license to a lot of other white collar people who were not traditionally, they're not MAGA trucker hat type people, to be like, hey, I'm with MAGA, right? And what I like to create is those moments that kind of get people who may have said, oh, well, I'm not going to affiliate myself with the movement, to then be like, no, this is my time. This is when I am going to affiliate.
We had an excellent human being previously. I forget his name. The gentleman that was about asking people a bunch of questions, asking their political affiliation, natural affiliation. Do you remember his name, Roy? We just had him.
What are you talking about Jamie?
Yes,
Jamie Miller.
So the thing is that what he does,
He's a political consultant.
He's kind of in your vein in that he goes ahead and asks people a bunch of general questions, and then based upon statistical information, he lets them know where they lean politically.
I like that. It's a quiz.
Oh, you're talking. I'm sorry. It's not Jamie Miller. It's the guy from the guy who has that chart.
Yes.
Oh my God. This is embarrassing. I can't remember his name.
You know, a lot of people have different, but I agree with you guys. A lot of people's political opinions are different than what they're being led to believe. But every survey I've always gotten has been conservative Democrat. That's
Right.
what I've always been put into is conservative, common sense Democrat. You know, I believe no one should die due to lack of health care. I believe our water should be clean, our air should be clean, our food should be clean. I believe, you know, we should have public transportation for people. You know, I believe we should have great relations with our allies. I believe we should be tough abroad, but also make friends abroad. I believe in economic opportunity and, you know, for us to let business succeed and to do as little as possible to interfere with that. That's my political philosophy. So I'm a conservative Democrat. I'm an independent, something like that. It's hard for me to have a political home right now based on those philosophies, but that's why I have to be an independent.
Just to let you know, I am a registered Republican, not because I wanted to be, but because I felt I had no choice. And
Sure.
the thing is that the last year when the mayor of this town ran for mayor, I didn't vote for a Republican. I voted for him. He's a Democrat. Why? Because he's doing a great job. So
I love that.
if I'm a registered Republican, I will not vote for somebody that is not good for the job. And
Yeah.
and I think that to me is true republicanism, because I consider republicanism essentially not just conservative, but a constitutionalist more than anything else.
Yes, don't be sheep. Don't as soon as you say I'm always voting R or always voting D, that party can screw you over 7 ways from Sunday because they know that they can just count on your vote regardless. And that's what Republicans have been doing in rural America. That's what Democrats have been doing in urban America. I don't think anyone owes anyone their vote. Do your research for sure. Well, that's a great note to end it on. I have to run.
One more thing I want to
Yeah, sure.
The gentleman Mike was talking about is not. His name is John Moran. John Moran.
Sorry about that. I forgot his name too.
Yeah, I forgot him too.
Since it's so powerful, it caused my mind to splatter.
Anyway, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been very enlightening, and I'm going to end the show now, but I do want to tell you I am going to contact some people having to do with a certain cause. Okay, and if you want, after I stop taping, I'll just briefly tell you who it is so you can expect a contact.
You got it.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us here at The View from Here, Behind Enemy Lines, and we will see you again next time.
Yes.
Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. And if you want my